you ready for a little Southern humor mixed with relevant topics we can all relate to? We're about to pull back the curtains and mix it up. Scoot your chair up. It's time to talk about all the things and ask all the questions. Welcome to Get It Together, y'all.
Welcome. Another Monday, and you might be seeing this on any day, but we come out with these podcasts every Monday. So I'm assuming that our tried and true faithfuls are catching us on the day we release it or soon thereafter. You're not going to believe this story today. We have such a great show for you. Hi, my name is Cindy, and I am your host for Get It Together, y'all. And I have so much gratitude in my heart for everybody who is watching. You are going to need a cup of coffee, and you're going to just need to snuggle up and turn this up. If you're in the car, just crank it, because you're going to fall in love with this story, and you're just going to want to tell it to everybody you run in contact with today. You're going to go, I was listening to this podcast, and you're not going to believe it. So I can't wait. I hope I'm not giving too much away, but I'm really excited. So, hey, April.
Hey, Cindy. I'm April Potter. I'm the co-host, and we have such a special show. I'm trying not to give it away either, but you might need a tissue or two. I'm just saying.
Okay.
It's probably going to be maybe a box of tissues.
But it's true. Everything
is true. It's a true story. I don't want to tell it yet. So
okay.
I'll
introduce our guest.
You want me to?
Yes,
okay.
I do.
First of all, I have my dad with me today, Terrell Potter. I may or may not be a daddy's girl, big time. Super close to my dad. It's an honor to have him on our show today. And then also we have Jocelyn James Edmonds with us.
Hi, Jocelyn.
Hey.
You want to say a little bit? Y'all maybe say something about who you are
and where you're from. You drove a ways.
We did from East Franklin, Russellville, Alabama.
Awesome.
And that's where we reside, my husband and my family.
So your name
is Jocelyn James Edmonds.
And you're involved in a really amazing thing.
A nonprofit. It's a faith-based women's recovery home that we're building. It's built, but it will house women in addiction to help them recover.
Some of my best friends work in this industry. In this have a calling in and have houses. I have a friend that has several houses in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and then we've had her on the show, and we are so excited whenever we can get the word out for a new nonprofit, and hopefully people will seek you out, and we will have all of the information.
There's layers and layers to this story, to get her to this place, and wow.
Well,
and then
it's all
Dad, do you want to tell them just a little bit about what you've done?
Yeah, I'm Terrell Potter, and I'm a retired police officer, and I worked 27 years in investigator for the district attorney's office, and I worked 17 years as a policeman and sergeant at Field Campbell Police Department.
Wow. Yeah. And our audience might say, no, what do these two people have in common? Wait till you learn about it. It's so exciting. For those of you who watch our show and tune into us, whether you are listening on just the podcast or you're watching the podcast on YouTube, we do something called Fun Facts. So I don't know. I think that we have to at least kick off with a few fun facts today, because I have a couple that it's just really hard for me to believe them myself. So I always have, if April ever gets out her phone, or she has a computer sometimes, and she's our fact checker, she'll go, yeah, I don't think that's right. And I'll see her pick up their phone, and I'm going. And then sometimes we have viewers that will say, yeah, I don't think that's right. And then they will let us know if we've got it a little bit wrong. But my fun fact today is that in the UK, you have to register if somebody is a lunatic, and you can only have one per household. I know.
So if you have a house full,
you cannot collect them. You cannot claim that more than one of your family is little nuts.
We're like, we're going to have to stay in 2 different houses. 'Cause,
I don't know, the backstory of that. Like if there are, special, assistance that helps people with mental illness, but
Yeah.
you cannot register more than one. So one nut per house. So
Wow.
yeah, I think that a lot of we're in the South, and I think that we would like bust that up.
Yeah.
It's a good thing it's not law in the.
Can I register at my grandmother's house?
You have a fun fact?
I do. Did you know that it's illegal to mispronounce the state name Arkansas?
Is that so? That's on the books.
Yeah.
So if somehow somebody
Arkansas, or
Yeah,
if you say
yeah.
it, you're probably going to jail.
so you have to think like, what was the origination of that? Somebody was really into their power.
They were really upset that you said the wrong name.
I
That's
think
what
they
it
were
was.
into their power, and then showed out with the fact that they didn't like mispronounced
law.
law.
I'm going to
but-
make this a law.
I don't know. That is crazy. So, Turl, I think you've got a fun fact because you were saying you weren't going to say it till we were on camera.
I might have one or two. First of all, I'm glad to be from Sweet Home, Alabama.
Sweet
Yes.
Everybody can say that, and we don't go to jail for saying it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to be from there. No, I watch a lot of Gunsmoke, and when you retire, that's what you do. You
Yep.
drink coffee and sit in your recliner and watch Gunsmoke.
You could live with my daddy. If
Yeah.
anything ever happens to y'all and you need to move with my parents, you
Roommates.
get along.
Right. They say there's about 600 and something episodes, so you can watch them over and over. And when you get my age, it don't matter. You forget what it's about, so you can watch the same one next week and still enjoy it. But one of the facts about Gunsmoke is James Arnaz is Matt Dillon. Everybody knows that. But in the beginning, when they first started that show, James was not the original person that wanted to play Matt Dillon.
Really?
No, they really wanted John Wayne to play that position.
Wow.
And he was tied up in the movie industry, and he didn't want to give that up.
Wow.
So that
Didn't know that.
started a search to find somebody to play Matt Dillon, and they went through 26 actors,
Wow.
and they didn't find nobody to really fit the bill that much. And John Wayne actually recommended James Arnaz. He said, I got a good friend, and he make a really good Matt Dillon.
Wow.
So that's how he got the job. In fact, the first episode, when it first starts coming on TV, John Wayne introduces that show.
Is
And
that right?
He introduces it, and he introduces James Arnaz as the star of Gunsmoke.
Wow, that is
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
I can almost lay money. I'll be getting out of my car and I'll be going in my parents' house, and I'll just have a bet to myself if they're watching Gunsmoke. And sometimes and Daddy don't think this is funny, but I'll say, Daddy, I think this is a rerun. And he'll go, whoa, tee.
Yeah.
But I've always watched them with him. I
Yeah.
think it's just the bond. Like I wanted to spend time with Dad, and I
Yeah.
knew he was always going to be watching a Western. So
Do you ever watch Perry Mason? Perry Mason.
Yeah.
I love Perry Mason. Do you ever, no. They're black and white, and you know why I like watching them today? Well, they're good stories. Like, so many times we'll be, going through and there's, 2,000 channels and nothing to watch. And I'll go, let's watch Perry Mason. And I'll almost go to sleep before it's over. So I'll lay there and I'll go, now what's this show called? And I'll Google it so I know the ending before it's, it's very much
in
into
case
it.
you fall asleep.
Yes, in case I fall asleep. But what I really like about watching Perry Mason and shows of that era is that I'm a decorator in my, in my
Spare time?
my spare time. And I like watching to see what the, mid-century modern pieces they had. And, I'm just like, oh, That's how you would, stage that look and that corner. Like I want to just really study those those rooms because they were beautifully appointed. So anyway, so what about you?
Well, my fun fact is not near that long. Do you know that your kidney pumps 50 gallons of blood a day?
No, 50 gallons.
Wow, I did
Yeah.
not know that.
That's all I know. But
Wow.
And maybe
That's
or maybe not, that could be a hint to our story today. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I know one that pumps a lot of urine in a day.
It broke records, didn't
Yeah.
it?
Man, that is crazy. Well, we love fun facts. If you've got some that you want to send in, some of our best ones have been sent in by viewers. Now we also switch gears and do this on a regular basis. Southern Mother. So we have little moments, and it could be something of a memory of our Southern Mother, but not every one of our guests are from the South. So we do a little educating. So if you're watching and you're not from the South, you might want to, take note because you might learn a thing or two because Southern mothers are wonderful. And then, sometimes our Southern mother moments are actual, things that they say or just special memories that, kind of linger on today. So let me ask you, Mr. Turl, did you have a Southern mother?
I did.
Absolutely.
did.
All my stories are about his mom.
Tell us a Southern mother story about one of your grandmas.
Well, my mother's name was Ira, and she was a really good cook. And she done a lot of baking and cakes and this everything.
How
and
did you spell her name?
Ira?
Yeah.
And
E-R-A.
yeah,
E-R-A?
yeah.
All right.
It's part of that Turl Merle Ira and
Okay.
Earl story. We'll get to that later one maybe. But my mother would cook cakes, and all you had to do is brag on her.
Oh.
Now, she fed herself all people bragging on her. So if I wanted a cake or something, all I had to do was start bragging on.
And she'd disappear and go in there and make you a warm cake.
The cake and the pie started appearing.
Oh, man.
I had
That's
to make this for Turl.
Yeah.
It's his favorite.
And you know one thing that's so good about most cakes is you can eat them warm.
Yeah.
You know? Some pies they have to, get good in the fridge. Like fruit pies. I mean, we're so Southern, we fry our fruit.
Yeah.
That's one of my
Right.
Southern sayings is that, because people from the North think that's funny. So let me say it again, and I'll say it a little bit slow. We're so Southern, we fry our fruit. But we like to put a little crust with it, and we call it cobbler, or we call it
Yes.
pie. And so, yeah. But a cake, more times than not. And if you have a frosting that also has to be, cooked, then you can put it on a warm cake. But if a frosting is made from cold ingredients, you have to let that cake cool before you frost it. That's a little Southern mother tip. Did you have a Southern mother?
I have a Yankee.
Yankee. Okay. Well, okay. So, we'll give you a pass. We will teach you a thing or two. But you know what? I've learned a few things from Midwest mamas and Yankee mamas. So was she Italian, or I'm looking at your
No.
dark hair? No?
No, she's not. She was from Chicago.
Okay.
But, she's a great mom.
Oh, what's a memory? So you got along with her? Yeah. Is she still alive?
Yes.
So we have to be careful
Yeah.
in case. Yeah, I want to write a book, but I'm gonna wait till my mother's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell on her plenty. Like my parents, I tell, I love to share their stories. I had somebody recently, April and I went to Las Vegas on a trip, and somebody just stopped me in a big crowd and said, "Cindy Larson," and I turned around and they said, "I love your stories about your parents." I'm going, I don't know.
We're at the airport. I'm like,
That's great.
So
they
funny
recognized
is-
her and
yeah.
loved her mom and dad's stories.
She's
awesome.
never met my parents, but because I like to talk about them, and when she said, "I like your stories about your parents," I said, "Wait till they pass away. I got the real good ones waiting." And we had a good laugh about that. But
great.
what's a good memory from your mom that you think of often?
She's just a giver.
Uh-huh.
She likes to give and do.
Are you one of a big family? Or?
I have 2 brothers.
Okay,
An older brother and a twin. I'm a twin.
Oh, that's
So they're both
interesting.
twins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Also.
that's awesome. That's fantastic. Did the older brother, how much older?
He is 50. Yeah, and I'm 45. I'll be
Okay.
45, I think.
So about
She
5
thinks.
years. You're a baby. I'll just say that. Yeah, I have underwear older than you, and I'm wearing them. No, I'm not. I'm just kidding. No, that's awesome. So, where did you grow up?
Russellville, Alabama.
So how did she get down to Alabama?
She met my dad in Chicago.
It's his fault.
Yes. All his fault.
It's all his fault. Did y'all get that? So was he there working or going to school? Or
I don't really know.
You don't know?
I mean, it's.
But
Yeah.
she followed him down here, and then that saved her life. You know, we just think that the South is where it's happening. Like, you
Yep.
know, we love it down here. Well, do you have another Southern mother memory you want to share before I don't want to cut you off? You know.
Well, she was a disciplinarian,
Okay.
but she had her hands full of me. You know, she had a little problem with that. But she would threaten to whip me and everything, and I'd tell her, go ahead, or you get started, it's almost dark. And when she'd tell me she's going to whip me for this day's up. But when my daddy got home and had got that black and gray belt out, I wish my mama had whipped me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was a real disciplinarian and raised us to respect people and,
Yeah.
and treat people right. Well,
You
my
know-
dad did too, but she was the one.
She was very creative also. Like I get it on both grandmother's side because she was a great cook, but she made flowers. So she had a florist at one
Wow.
point, and she also did hair.
Wow.
So she was a creative all around too. So
Yeah.
just a lot, kind of an entrepreneur, even when entrepreneurship was not really
Wow.
that popular.
That's
She
awesome. So
Always starting a new some kind of company or
Yeah.
something, you know.
I call that being a plate spinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we
We
just
love it.
do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you know, I don't listen to people that say, you know, that you don't ever get one thing done because you got too many things. I'm like, you just don't know me. Follow me around. I get plenty done. You know,
They say to ask the busy person.
yeah,
You know, and I always say that too. We have that in common.
Yeah.
We both like to spin a lot of plates, don't
yeah, we do. I get bored. I think I get bored. You know, I don't know if that's a good thing to say, but my mind is always spinning, and April and I are unusual in that we're split brained. We have one side of our brain can think these amazing, you know, theoreticals, and then the other side of our brain is very methodical. So, you know,
we? We can carry it out.
yeah. So it's fun to be, you know, she's a mini me. So that's why, you know, this is meant to be. But anyway, we're so glad. So get us started, April. You're the one that, you know, has the inside intel. So I'm going to pop up questions that maybe, you know, dumb questions, because I'm just learning all this for the first
the
time. I just
facts.
know a few high points, but
Okay, so a few years ago, we got the news that no one wants to hear that my dad's kidneys were at less than 20%.
Yeah.
And so we knew that we were going to have to make another plan. And so a kidney transplant was on the table, and it was during COVID, right?
Right.
2019.
Well, yeah, they started failing in 2018.
Yeah.
But I actually, 2019 was when they told me I was going to have to go on dialysis
okay.
or get a transplant. Now, I let everybody know up front, I had a stroke back in April the 17th, so I might talk a little bit funny. but I can tell what I'm going to say. I know what I'm going to say. And if you don't understand it, if you text me, I'll text you back what I'm trying to say and
Yeah.
get the message all across, okay?
I think you're doing great.
All right.
I think you're doing great. You speak 2 languages,
Yeah.
English and Southern, and we can
Yes.
understand whichever one you want to talk to us in. And you're doing fantastic.
Well,
When
thank you.
we did have this show scheduled for an earlier time, and that did put a kink in our timing. But God knows everything, doesn't he?
Yes,
Absolutely.
His timing.
Absolutely.
How did it feel when you got the news from your doctor that it was that serious?
It's devastating,
Yeah.
really, because we had plans to go on a cruise and
Mm-hmm.
do different things. And he said, well, you won't be able to go.
Wow.
It's that serious. In fact, he wanted me to go pretty well immediately and get a port put in to start the dialysis. And we talked about it a little bit, and I asked him what about other options. And he said, well, a transplant would probably be out for you because of age and health and everything.
Yeah.
And he said it might be hard to get a donor or get a kidney through normal things.
Yeah.
It would take approximately 8 years probably to get a kidney, and you don't have the loan.
Yeah.
So you need to go ahead and get prepared to do dialysis.
Now, had you already retired at that point?
I
or-
did. I retired in 2017.
Yeah.
My health is already getting a little breaking
Yeah.
a little bit.
But as a daughter, and your dad grows up as a police officer and
Right.
in law enforcement. He's just always been this strong man and,
Yeah.
working crazy hours and wide open. And to hear a diagnosis like that,
Yeah.
I'm like, he can't slow down. He's
Right.
Superman. We got to keep going. And
Right.
so we talked about the transplant, and I went and was filling out the paperwork and realized that I was not a candidate. My mom wasn't. His twin brother wasn't.
How do you know? I mean,
There's so many qualifications, and it's
Okay.
it's a very tedious actually application to even find out if you can be tested for it.
wow.
And if you have any kind of prior medical, any kind of prior medical conditions that is on their list, they won't even test you.
Wow.
And so I'm brokenhearted as a daughter, like, what am I going to do
Yeah.
for my dad? And I said, I'm just going to put our story out. I think I should just write and put our story out. And so we did, and we put it on the internet. And I thought, this is what I can do. I can write and I can tell the story. So I wrote and told the story. And I'll let you pick up here, Jocelyn. Do you want to start
Yeah.
how you saw it?
That's fine.
Okay. And how you're connected to the family, maybe tell them.
I had so Terrell and I, we had some our paths had crossed years prior. I'm a recovering addict,
Okay.
and he arrested me on my last 3 felonies.
Wow.
And-
3 times he arrested you 3 times?
And so in November of 2019, I've been clean. November 5th, it will be 12 years. I think I've been clean.
Wow.
11 or 12. I can't remember.
Good for you. That's high five, girl. That's
Yes.
awesome.
I'm on steroids, and so my mind's just spinning right now. But anyways, I was working multiple jobs, and I came home one night. I was a single mom at the time, and I come home and was just scrolling through Facebook, looking
Yeah.
at my phone, just real tired. And I seen the post on Facebook. I tell this all the time. I don't even know what the post said. I've never
Wow.
went back and read it. I don't even know
Yeah.
today what it said. But all I read was, my dad is going to die if he doesn't get a kidney. And so that's what I reached out to April, and the Holy Spirit told me right then that I had his kidney.
Oh, my goodness.
And,
Yeah, me too.
So I threw the phone down because at that time, I had like 72 people in rehab. I was a single mom. I had my grandma living in the kitchen, trying to take care of her.
Wow.
And I didn't have time for anybody else.
Yeah.
And so,
And what kind of job did you have
Well,
at the time?
I still work at a college, but I also run a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And it operates out of my vehicle because the building is not up and running yet.
Yeah.
And I transport women to treatment, to
Okay.
rehab, and I find their placement. And
She was already doing a really great work because God had just turned her whole life around after she
Wow.
come out of this. So she was already on a really great path, but I don't think she had this in her plans.
Right,
You know?
right.
It's like,
no, I'm a nice person, but I'm not that nice.
It had to be a real tug.
Yeah, it was just God.
Yeah.
And so I threw my phone down and I was just like, I don't have time for this, Lord. And so the next morning I woke up and I give him like 72 hours. I give the Lord 72 hours to
Yeah.
to tell me, give me a sign.
Yeah.
And but I was a perfect match.
Wow.
I text April like through Facebook and told her.
Wow. That
she
is
didn't know she
incredible.
was. She didn't know she was a perfect
No,
match.
I
She just
didn't.
knew. Well, she knew that the Holy Spirit told her to be. That she
Yeah.
had his kidney.
Where did you find your faith? Where did you find the Lord and get saved? Was that
I was in rehab.
okay?
It was in 2013. I got clean November 5th of 2012, but I mean, I was at rock bottom. I'd lost everything. I mean, I didn't have a car, a home, a job. I didn't have nothing. Like I was at the bottom of the
Yeah.
barrel. And when the Lord like didn't let me die in addiction, like I knew there was a purpose for my life.
Right.
I just didn't know what it was. And I am walking in faith like every day, even now. Like it's just faith because life is crazy every day.
So you took the time out, you pumped the brakes on your schedule and went and said, well, I'm just going to at least try. And then I'll fill out the paperwork and then I will have done what I should do.
Yeah,
And that'll kind of clear you from this like experience that you
well,
had.
I knew that it was like I mean, I knew that I had his kidney. Like
Wow.
the Lord's not going to tell me to give this man a kidney and not have it. You
Yeah.
know, but I mean, I knew when I didn't start Googling about it and like trying to figure out what they do or what the process is. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want anybody to know that I was doing it.
Yeah.
But on December 5th, when they actually called me and told me that you and your father, Vanderbilt called and said that you and your father are a perfect match.
Wow.
And I was like, he's not my father. And I said, we are not even kin. And she said, there is no way. And I said,
Oh man.
no. And then that was the first time that I had the opportunity to tell someone about the Lord and to tell them a little bit about the story. I mean, and it wasn't even a story yet, but that, I mean, I was able to tell her, hey, listen, like, I'm a recovering drug addict.
Yeah.
And I got this man's kidney, and,
Wow.
and she's like, there's no way. And I'm like, yeah.
And then she has to go through so many tests that they're like,
I have questions.
yeah.
Are you sure you're not her father?
No,
Is
Yeah.
this a time for a
You know,
reveal?
you know what's really crazy is she went to school with my younger sister.
Wow.
And so it's just a little community. Everybody knows everybody. And, they're telling us 7 to 9 years for a waiting list on a kidney. And she lives less than a mile
Yeah.
from our house.
Yeah.
And we had no idea what God was doing. We had no idea what kind of story he was writing and is still writing. I mean, everywhere my dad goes, still, he tells the story.
Yeah.
Every appointment, every other, even through his stroke, he was telling, they're wheeling him out, and he goes, hey, did I tell you about my kidney? He's
Wow.
just, he goes into the whole story and tells it, and God keeps getting all this glory for our story. And so the day before they went into surgery, I was just kind of wanting to capture again, because that's what I do, capture the moments. And I kind of put this little video together and interviewed them and told the story again and how do you feel and just a few little things like that. Broke every journalism rule that I know. I turned my camera wrong. We went 20 minutes. I mean, we were just boohooing crying because we were just so blessed by the whole story. And we ended up putting the story together and put it on Facebook. And this was the day before we went, and they went into surgery. And someone from our hometown saw my story and shares it with a writer in Birmingham, Rick Carley, which I want to give lots of props to him because he took our story, and it was a human interest story, and he was so interested in it that he ended up interviewing them and writing our story or sharing my story. And from that, it just began to get picked up all over the United States. Just any news channel you can think of. And this is during COVID. So there's like nothing good about police officers. I mean, like nobody liked police officers during that time. Yeah. And the timing, after we looked back, we're like, oh my gosh, like God certainly knows what he's doing with the timing because it just went from one to the next. NBC Nightly News and all these different networks found Rick's story and just kept calling. And we didn't call one person. No. And we had hundreds of news media. And
it was in 53 countries.
Yes.
Wow.
And it was all in their own language. And we still Google sometimes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're in India now.
Yeah.
You know, and they still just want to keep telling this story over and over because it's this police officer and this ex, addict, and how their lives crossed early on and then recrossed. And
when you heard that it was her, how did you feel during all this time? You were sick, for one thing.
I was, but I know Joshua for a pretty good while, and I knew her through the bad time.
Yeah.
The bad Jocelyn. And she was right. She was running wild and stealing and shoplifting and whatever she had to do to get that next fix.
Yeah.
And so first of all, when we found out I was going to have a kidney, me and my wife prayed about it.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, it was not going to be 7 years.
Right. Mm-mm.
The Lord told me, I'm going to get your kidney.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And within 30 days after she put that on there, the deal was sealed.
Wow.
Now, only body can do that is God.
That's
Yes.
right.
The only body can clean her up as bad as she in
Right.
and doing the things she was doing. It had to be God.
And there was a reason for you to not die. You probably would have, could have, should have died many times in your addiction, but there was still another story to be told, and
Right.
that preaches.
But even at Vanderbilt, when we were being tested, because I went with her to have, because you do a preliminary test, and if they think you're a match, then you have to go back and be tested. So, how many tons. But they were like, now we're going to have to tell Mr. Potter, that you've done drugs before. And she's like, well, that's okay. I think he knows, And they couldn't believe that she had ever been a drug addict. They said her whole body was like, when God restored it, I get chills every time I tell it because it's perfect. Mm-hmm. And it was like she had never done a drug in her life.
Wow. And so you went into the surgery at the same time? Did they take you in together?
About 2 hours. I think she went in 2 hours before me.
Okay. Because they have to harvest your organ, and it has to be a lot of people, a whole army,
right,
ready to go. And then what are the odds that it will? They call it taking.
Right.
So what was that process like?
Well, that process was us all settled with God. He said it's my kidney, so it wasn't nothing to do with them really, with our part. But the anti-rejection and everything, you have to work at taking the medicine for it. But I've never worried one bit about it not staying and rejecting because what God does, he don't do wrong.
Wow. Now, doctors are hard nuts to crack.
Yeah.
So I know in my mom's experience, she has a testimony of coming through healing. And when she heard her death sentence, she said, well, we'll see what God says about that. That just, the doctor's just like, throwing his hands up like, and please. And she said, well, we believe in miracles. And he said, well, you know, good for you, you know. And then after the fact, all this time later, she said, do you believe in miracles now? After she was given a clean bill of health, he said, I'm looking at one.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so sometimes I say this phrase a lot, and people, when they're in their darkest, dungeon, it's really hard to wrap your mind around this phrase, but I find it so truthful in every type of challenge. But I say this, what you're going through is never about you. And what we're going through always feels so personal. The addiction felt so, what do you mean it's not about me? Of course it's me. The being broke and being destitute, and of course it's about me. It can't be about anything else. And the story, when you had a kidney failure, of course it's me. It's my kidney, and it's failed, and I'm the one that's going to die from it. And of course it's about me. No, actually, as things reveal, and you're getting to see the whole story. To a point, there's so many more people that their lives are being changed that you won't know till we're all in heaven and we're
Right.
hearing their part of this. But
Well, one thing, Cindy, you learn is like with Jocelyn, you don't throw people away because they made a mistake.
right,
She made mistakes and done drugs, but she is still a human being.
Yeah.
She was still somebody's daughter. And that's what I like about her program and what she's doing to try to reach these people. Because they're a drug addict, they don't have to always be a drug addict.
Right.
They can get clean. As the Lord cleaned her up, I think, to show the world that there's a place for you.
yeah,
And there's a work to be done. And so I'm very blessed that she was humble and obedient to the Lord. That these parts don't just happen.
right,
They all have to work in the way they need to be. God had to restore her first of all,
yeah,
and get her life straightened up,
Yeah.
clean her body up,
Yeah.
and then she had to be obedient to what God asked her to do,
Yeah.
and that's to give up a
because
kidney.
you were already living a life of faith, and so passing
Right.
away would have just been, it's a
Well,
win-win
that's
for
right,
you.
right.
Everybody left is
Yeah.
who's sorrowful about that.
You don't want to leave your family, but
No.
you're prepared.
You're
know.
prepared,
Right.
but you were willing to, put your faith out there and say, God, I really think that you're going to heal me.
Right.
You're going to touch me, and some people get an instantaneous healing. Personally, I had a testimony of when I was a little girl. I fell and broke my arm. It snapped in two, and it was just hanging limp. And I was a evangelist daughter, so we were at church at the time, and it was a lot of people rushed around there. They laid my arm on a table like this, and they said, my mom was saying, call the ambulance, and my dad said, let's just pray first. And mom's going, well, can we pray on the way to the hospital? But I just remember all the hands that were stacked, 6 inches tall, and the prayers that just went on. And when they took their hands back, that bone had fused back, and I never had a cast. I never had anything. There was but it had just been hanging limp, and there was just a total break. And the Lord mended that back together. And that has been a testimony to me as an adult that, God heals instantaneously.
Right.
But then my mom got cancer and had to go through all the things. And so, whatever God chooses to do, it's his, we trust him. But now you're able, and thankfully you were selfless enough to walk through this process of donating the kidney. And then what a testimony you are for your women to say, because addiction, it's hard not to be self-absorbed.
Yeah.
When you're just, every moment is to feed that addiction. And I've been around some addicts that I loved them, and I was have done my best to try to be the right person that they needed, because it's a difficult position. But the thing that addicts, my friends who have come out of it, said that was my most self-absorbed season, was when I was so deep in my addiction. And so to be turn that around in a way that you're giving your body parts, like it's just crazy. And then then what you do for women. So take us through some of that. Like, this had to have been a life-changing.
It was. Like I said, I was a single mom.
Yeah.
And I had my grandmother living in my kitchen.
Did she pass, or
She's in the nursing home
okay? All right.
now. But she was getting the onset of dementia. And
Yeah.
I just thought, what's one more person? Just put her took the kitchen table out and put her in there, a bed in
Wow.
there. And my kids were old enough to, fend for themselves.
Right.
And, I worked 3 jobs, like 2 full-time jobs and a part-time job. And wasn't dating or anything like that. But it's like the Lord had all this planned out. So in November, I read the post about Turl, and in December on my birthday, like I met a man for the first time in Huntsville, and so I want to say he was the first one I actually told before like anybody.
Wow.
Obviously not April, but I think I told him first. But long story short, now the kidney was donated. 6 weeks later, we were married.
Oh, wow.
We're a blended family with, together we have 5 kids, and the nonprofit is just going great.
Wow.
And the Lord knew that I needed a man in my life to help
Right.
with this ministry, and he's in recovery also. And it's just, the story just goes on and on and on.
They're the sweetest
And
couple too, and it's just precious how the Lord had all that planned out for real, and just He already knew. And so she had just started dating actually
Yes.
when she when she come up here to be tested.
Wow.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of fun that went along with this. Now
It was.
it was tough in a way, but we had a lot of fun.
yeah,
Jocelyn is like one of my girls, and she come by the house, and she may knock, and she may not just come on in,
Yeah.
and that's perfectly fine. Her kidneys
Yes.
in there already.
That's right.
Yes.
And so we was on different shows like Dr. Oz and
Wow.
Tamla Hall and Guidepost picked it up, and
Yes.
Women's World Magazine.
Wow.
Now that's the only way I can be in a woman's magazine
Yeah.
is to get a woman's kidney.
Yeah.
But if that's the way it is, that's the way it is.
That's what
Yeah.
it is.
But the thing about Jocelyn is only God knows the souls that she's touched.
Yeah.
Thousands of people she's helped through this recovery. And only He knows what them people will be.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I always say, don't throw people away.
Right.
Clean them up and then lead them to the Lord,
Yeah.
and He'll take it from there.
Yeah.
He saves, we don't. All
Yeah.
we do is point Him. But I'm so thankful that she's done this. I know several women I run into all the time. They tell me, if it hadn't been from Jocelyn, I wouldn't be here.
Wow.
And that makes me real proud.
Yes. Tell us how we can get involved. April's going to put your link and your story up on our website, and we want to encourage people to look into your nonprofit. And if they live somewhere where they're stirred and their heart is open to kind of being a miracle for someone else, what would you say to somebody who either feels called to be involved with like the kidney organ donation? Is there a national agency that they if that is their pull, or if seeking out a local nonprofit in their area, a shelter, women's shelter, how would you direct people to get involved in giving of themselves, and maybe they find themselves in a very self-absorbed world and they need to just turn around and start giving?
Well, I mean, with not the kidney part, I mean, he might know of the foundation.
Okay.
But as far as like, if there's a nonprofit in your local area, it's not going to be convenient. I say that first and foremost. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're helping someone because it's convenient, you're just doing it for self.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
True.
you have it's an every day in life. It's an inconvenience.
Yeah.
And don't let what other people think hold you back. Like,
Yeah.
because here's the thing, if I had met someone like me in my addiction, I may not have went as far as I did. Nobody wanted to help me. Nobody wanted to reach out. Nobody wanted to sit down at a table with me, eat, talk to me. And I mean, I'm not patting my own. I do it all the time. I mean, they
Yeah.
stink. They don't have any teeth. They're
Right.
nasty. They're drug addicts. They're felons.
Right.
I mean, cops are looking for them. And, like, they're humans.
They need help.
They need
Right.
help. I needed help. But, I mean, everything you need to know is at the tip of your fingers.
Yeah.
So
Just
can
Google.
you even tell her a little bit about yours and what you're doing now?
The
like
Place
the
of Grace.
process or where it's at.
The Lord put it on my heart in 2012 or 2013 when I graduated that I would run a women's facility. I didn't know what that looked like. But here we are, 2024.
Yeah.
And we now have a 6,000 square foot facility that's built. After the kidney donation, we had 5 acres of land donated. Everything, we've spent $235,000 to date building the facility, all on donations.
Wow.
People just donating. It'll house 100 women,
Wow.
and we're really close to finishing it. We've got to finish the inside, and we just operate on donations. I mean, I travel, my husband and I, we travel, together some, but we get to share our story, and it opens the door to tell about the Place of Grace. And you can find the Place of Grace on Facebook. It's just the Place of Grace.
I have a question. I've never asked this.
Yeah.
She's like my sister, but I've never asked this. Do you think that your obedience in giving the kidney as God directed you and following through with that was a door or a key that
Yes.
led to all the rest of your story?
Yes.
Because you were already doing it, but you
Like-
didn't have this planned,
I laugh all the time and say, if I had known all this was going to happen this fast, I would have given that kidney a long time ago. I mean, like the Lord He give me a husband, like He give me, 3 more kids, one that we have custody of. He give me a building, like, He has.
land.
Yeah, it's just
Everything.
it's all him. Like it's
Wow.
just all him. Like it's all him. It's like he was just waiting all these years to see, are you really going to be
Wow.
obedient?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, clearly God talks to you.
oh yes,
And clearly you listen. You might not want to, but that's really cool. A lot of times people think, well, why does God talk to me? You mentioned that getting out of school, like you were just a young person and you knew you were going to help women
out of rehab.
out of rehab. Oh, no, graduated out of rehab.
Rehab,
Got
yes.
it. Okay. But even you're just a walking testimony of, no matter where you are, listen, because God's always talking. And you had to arrest this young woman many times, and you're like going, honey, you again.
Yeah.
And then it was going to be you saved her life possibly by stopping her in mid trip of a dangerous lifestyle.
Well, she's headed the wrong way, and
Yeah.
God has used me to help get her in jail, possibly to get her head the right way, and that's the way He works things out.
Yes.
And the place of grace, it goes one soul at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how you do these things. You can't start saying, "Oh, I'm going to help 1,000 people."
Right.
You just need to help one person at a time,
Yes.
and God will. If you make yourself available, He'll use you.
Yeah.
And just like He did her, she was obedient, trusted God, and she was faithful.
Yeah.
And with them three things, look what's happened to her. I wouldn't take nothing for where she's at and the story that she's got. And so I'm, like I said, I brag on her.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
You know,
Yeah.
When
I'm
you-
very grateful.
When you move in and have a ribbon cutting, I'm sure you're
Yes.
going to be a
I'll
proud
be
papa.
They were
there.
there for
He
the
was groundbreaking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
groundbreaking.
I'll be
It
there.
was
Sure.
freezing cold, but he was
Yeah.
there.
You know, and I would say to our listeners here, if there's somebody that has a need like this, tell your story. We always, me and Cindy, we talk about this on several of our shows. Tell your story, because if people doesn't know the need, there's no way that they can know that you need help. And so I think that's one of the key components here is we could have sat back for however many years and waited, but by us telling the story, God was able to move
Yeah.
on your heart. So I encourage people often to tell the story and just let people know that you have a need.
Yeah, that's amazing. Tell your story. We're so thankful that you both came from Alabama to Nashville for this, and we want to hear from you. So if you know of somebody who is struggling, reach out to us. They need a kidney. They need, us to agree with them in prayer. We don't always get this deep and put that out there. We talk about a lot of different things on Get It Together, y'all. But you know what? Tonight or today, whenever you're listening to this is your call to action. And we are here to help. We say that all the time, but we really mean it. So get it together, y'all. We're here to help. Thank you for watching today. Bye-bye.